Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are very few in Montreal's English-speaking community who did not know Father John Walsh. His sudden passing last week was devastating news to the many thousands of people whose lives he touched. Father John was a priest for 53 years. He served as a pastor, curate, chaplain, professor, and biblical scholar. He spent decades serving local parishes, including St. Monica's in NDG and St. John Brebeuf in LaSalle, but in his lifetime, he did so much more. He co-founded the Procure Walk of Courage to fight prostate cancer. He spent years working to help Montreal's homeless, and his 40-year association with the Nazareth community led to the third Nazareth house being called John's House in his honor. He was a champion of bringing communities together and devoted his life to building bridges between Christians, Jews, Muslims, and First Nations. He was a member of the Order of Canada, a great Canadian, and a true Montrealer. He will be sorely missed.
The honourable member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik, EU. Mr. Speaker, yesterday marked the 135th anniversary of the hanging of Louis Riel, who was executed at the insistence of the federal government for defending the Métis Nation when Ottawa tried to seize its lands. The Bloc moved a motion in this House calling on the government to exonerate Louis Riel as soon as possible, but it refused. Mr. Speaker, this was an opportunity to right an injustice at a time when Canada wants to reconcile with the First Nations. Instead, this House chose to defend its legacy of racist colonialism. It was an opportunity to respect the Quebec National Assembly, which unanimously called on the federal government to exonerate Louis Riel last week. Instead, this House chose to defend the legacy of John A. Macdonald, who declared that Louis Riel will hang, though every dog in Quebec bark in his favor. Clearly, 135 years later, Louis Riel's execution continues to divide nations. The House of Commons has once again chosen the same side, that of the oppressors.
For Labrador. The honourable member for Labrador, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize the significant contributions of Canada's mineral and mining sector. Labrador is one riding in Canada where mining contributes to sustainable growth, strong employment, and remarkable community partnerships. Minerals and metals are the building blocks of the computers we use every day, the smartphones we rely on, of the vehicles and public transit that get us places, of the buildings where we live, work, and play, and of green technologies that help make the world a more sustainable place. Across the North and right here at home, the industry is leading in innovation and clean technologies, fostering Indigenous partnerships and building cutting-edge infrastructure to support their operations and the communities they work in. So as we look to address the challenges of COVID-19 and to build back better, our government will continue to work with the Mining Association of Canada, with PDAC and industry leaders across the country to enhance these practices and ensure the competitiveness of Canada's mining sector in the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Prince George Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as December 25th and Christmas quickly approach, I'm reminded about the true meaning of Christmas. God sending his only son, Jesus, to save the world. Perhaps now more than ever, we all need to be reminded of the joy of the very first Christmas. Then the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign unto you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." From my family and staff to all of you, may you remember the true joy and everlasting meaning of the season. Merry Christmas.
The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, I would like to underscore the importance of the announcement made by our government with respect to the Universal Broadband Fund. The enhancement of this fund will have a major impact on the quality of life of many Canadians and of thousands of people in my riding of Châteauguay-Lacolle. The big lockdown underscored the importance of high-speed internet to the vitality of our communities. With no internet connection, working from home and studying from home and making online appointments are difficult. Even promoting companies becomes impossible. I would like to underscore the excellent work of the mayors in my riding who have brought forth this issue and who are showing creativity. These are people who want everyone to be connected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, Diwali, also called the Festival of Lights, represents the triumph of good over evil. And at this occasion, small ceramic lamps are filled and called diyas. And the observation of Diwali in India differs from one region to another in the traditions. And it represents the sixth Sikh Guru Hargobind, who left prison and was sent to Amritsar. It is a day that reminds Sikhs all the efforts that were necessary to keep fighting for freedom and human rights and to fight against tyranny and oppression. In other words, to bring light to the lives of others. During these complicated times, may light shine into the lives of each and every one of us, and may it never stop shining. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, I, like many of the other MPs just elected over a year ago, have likely been getting lots of questions about how my first year in Parliament's been. I replied pretty much as expected, while highlighting it's an absolute honour and privilege to serve the constituents of Bruce Grey, Owen Sound, and that I view myself as one of the more non-partisan MPs here in the House. Unfortunately, I do state I find myself becoming more partisan every day. The main reason is the lack of transparency and openness in this government. My first question in the House last December on behalf of Canadian beef farmers was why did the government not apply for BSE negligible risk status in July of 2019 to the World Animal Health Organization? I didn't get a reply. So I asked for a written response this past winter. Again, a non-response. So I tried again this fall. The answer this time? Canada applied in July of 2020. This government likes to preach about building back better. Mr. Speaker, how about just do better? Canadians expect answers. Just answer the questions.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On December 1st, we will mark Giving Tuesday, the 8th year it will be celebrated in Canada. Giving Tuesday is a global movement for giving and volunteering, taking place each year after Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's a day when charities, companies, community leaders, and residents join together to support their favorite cause by fundraising, donating, volunteering, and spreading the word. We have seen inspiring Canadians across our country come together to support those in need throughout this pandemic. Across Canada, there are 43 movements celebrating Giving Tuesday, including in my hometown of Mississauga, where a group of volunteers lead Mississauga Gives, a campaign harnessing generosity to bring about positive change. Whether you choose to make a financial contribution to a cause important to you, donate a gently used item or your time, donate blood, or choose another way to give, I encourage everyone to join millions of Canadians this Giving Tuesday as we unite to make a difference.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud to rise in this House today to recognize two young constituents who showed incredible courage and bravery in the face of terrifying circumstances. Last month, Finn and Oliver Goddard were traveling with their family within my riding when the family's truck hit black ice, rolled over, landed on the passenger side, and pinned all the occupants. 11-year-old Finn sprang into action, unbuckled Oliver, and helped them get out. Under Finn's leadership, together they were able to rescue the rest of the family from the vehicle. Finn was composed and calm, but decisive. He knew what he needed to do, and he just did it. To Finn and Oliver, when others might have froze, you took action, and in doing so, You saved lives. You have proven yourself to be steadfast in the face of a daunting challenge. You have demonstrated to yourselves and to your community that you can do anything. Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud of these young men, and I know they have a bright future ahead of them. I hope all colleagues in this place will join me in saying thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Natasha is a single mom in my riding who works as a server at a local Italian restaurant. When I talked to her last week, even though I could tell she is tough as nails, her worry about being out of work because of future COVID lockdowns weighed heavy on her. Natasha wants to work, but in my province, which was already hit hard by the Prime Minister's devastating policies against workers in the energy sector, it's become nearly impossible. The Prime Minister has no understanding that Natasha and most people in Calgary can't afford to take 2 weeks at home to wait for test results if their kids get a runny nose, and he failed to get rapid tests for Canadians, which could have helped to prevent this second wave. The Prime Minister has failed to take care of Canadians, COVID or not. He consistently put Canadian interests behind his own or those of the cocktail set at the United Nations. He makes choices that continue to devastate the ability of Canadians to work or to be healthy. We must fight back when he says he wants to expand this devastating so-called reset of our nation. Mr. Speaker, women like Natasha do need a reset, a new Prime Minister.
The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, a new report just came out naming Saudi Arabia and Canada as the worst performers when it comes to fossil fuel subsidies. Take a moment to let that sink in. We are topping the list with Saudi Arabia as the worst in the world. Canada promised to stop giving out fossil fuel subsidies, but like so many other empty promises, this government is actually increasing the amount of public money being handed out to big oil and gas companies. And let's not forget they bought a pipeline. Why are we not investing that money in creating good, sustainable, low-carbon jobs? Canadians are calling for a just and sustainable recovery. They want investments in clean energy, green infrastructure, energy-efficient housing, and public transit. But instead, this government is doubling down on the fossil fuel industry. This Prime Minister claims to be a climate leader, but Canada is on par with Saudi Arabia, named as the worst when it comes to handing out public money to big oil and gas. It's time to put some action behind the empty promises and end fossil fuel subsidies now.
L'honorable.
The honourable member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, for months now, the Bloc has been asking the government to create a special status for the unique cultural industry. We're starting to see the lights go out and curtains close, one after the other, for this industry. And it is with great sadness we learned that the cabaret Deux Pierrots is closing in December. The Deux Pierrots is a cool place that has seen hundreds of artists become famous because they have been on that stage. Culture is now in danger, and we want to save the Deux Pierrots, but to save culture, we need a specific and permanent plan.